Amazing. Hi, everyone. Joining
Hi,
from
everyone.
home.
Okay. And over to you, Wilbert.
Thanks. So, for everybody online, everybody in room, welcome at Randstad. So we're super happy to have you here, online or in room. A little bit about Randstad. Randstad is a global HR services company. We employ 600,000 people every day in companies in 39 countries. And we roughly have 20 million candidates per year in our databases. So this room has been designed to help our customers, our talent, and our own internal employees. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later, but that with no further ado, I'm going to hand over to our partner and also your partner, Purple, Suzanne, Jessica. Kick it off.
Thank you very much. First of all, of course, welcome to Randstad, that we are able to host the event here today. That's really great, so really grateful for that. My name is Susan. I think I've met most of you. I'm Customer Success Manager for Purple, and I'm really excited that we're going to host the very first customer community event for Purple today. And I'm together with Jessica here.
Yes, my name is Jessica. I'm the head of strategy within Purple, and I lead a team of creatives and technologists, and we help design these types of experiences. And we're very happy that everyone is here today, either in room or online indeed.
Yes. And as you might know, in the beginning of the year, I visited a couple of our clients, and I asked, what can we do to make our collaboration a bigger success? And one of the things I think that you all mentioned was that we want to learn more from each other. Because what we know is that the role that you're currently in is quite a rare role to manage an immersive experience or an experience center. So it's really nice to learn from others and to improve your day-to-day operations. So what we did is that we hosted a survey before this community event to figure out what kind of topics are interesting for you to learn from. And out of that survey came that we want to focus on exploring different use cases from our clients. So, hence the theme of today, exploring use cases, ensuring there's purpose in every pixel. So Jessica, we had an idea to first start with a bad example. So can you tell a little bit more about a bad example of a use case?
Yes, because we were in the room with a lot of storytellers and also with a lot of storytellers on the call. So it would be inappropriate not to start with a little short story of my own. 3-ish years ago, I went to London with a colleague and we were visiting a potential customer for whom we were organizing an event. And they're an oil and gas company based out of London, not naming any other names. But we went into their main office, and as you walk into this grand lobby space, there is a really big LED video wall that's plastered behind the reception desk. And it's one of those things, we all know big screens, as we can tell, they grab attention. And that was the case there as well. Except what I noticed, as soon as you start really looking at that screen, is that there was an image of a person on top of a mountain with their arms spread wide, and they were the longest, widest arms span width that I had ever seen on a person, while the person itself was quite stocky and short. What had happened, this customer had invested in technology, for sure, but they didn't think about the pixels that they were going to put on that screen. So instead of having a video playing or something that enhanced the ambiance and represented their brand, they had a really stretched image, which is essentially very expensive wallpaper, plastered behind their reception desk. And it was one of those things where, as unfortunate as it was a very memorable experience. Because years later, I still remember going into that main lobby, what it looked like, but also what I thought when I saw this, which is, that is weird. So what we're going to be talking about today is how do you make sure that there is purpose in every pixel and that you use technology as a means to an end and never an end in and of itself. And I think it's something that hopefully, when we're handing over the mic to a lot of our users and a lot of our customers, is something that they will echo as well.
Which brings us to the agenda of today. So we're currently talking about the introduction of this very first community event, and we will have a big reveal as well that still falls within this introduction, so bear with us. And after that, we're going to explore 4 client cases from the clients that we currently have. So we start with Randstad, who prepared a really nice presentation for us today on this stage from Amsterdam. Then we will hand over the mic to Ellie from Chicago, who is working for PepsiCo in their experience center. Then we go to Europe again. We go to Zurich, where SAP will present their use case, Hannah. And we close it off with Lily from Under Armour from Shanghai. And then we will present an exercise how you can unlock your own use case and how to improve your use cases in your center itself. And then we will have a Q&A. This Q&A will be held from the virtual studio. So right now we're not, Wilbert will explain this a little bit more, but we're currently not in a virtual studio setup. We will switch to the virtual studio setup, where we are able to present from an extended reality point of view for the people online, which is really interesting and cool to experience. So please stay for the Q&A. And of course, we would love to hear your questions then as well.
Of course.
Then, the reveal.
The reveal. So one of the things that some people may already know or have come across, if you follow us on LinkedIn or if you've seen some of our communication pop by, is that Purple has recently acquired a company called Planworks. And together, Purple and Planworks are now known as the storytelling company. And part of what we're seeing here today around us is some of our new brand identity. We will start using the name, the storytelling company, TSC, more actively going forward. A lot of that is more to come, but we figured now that we have a lot of friendlies in the room and a lot of people who know us quite well, I would say, that it makes sense to also seize this moment and talk about one of the exciting new chapters that we as a company, Purple, Planworks, the storytelling company, are embarking on as a next adventure. Planworks typically designs event experiences. Purple designs what we call brand experiences in offices. This is a great example. And together we now offer a broader suite of services when it comes to creating immersive and interactive brand experiences. So we're very excited about that going forward. But that was a little logo reveal and announcements. And I think now it's time to start heading over to the main agenda. And we'll start with the icebreaker.
We start with the icebreaker, but before we do the icebreaker, I see that Fatima raised a hand from T-Mobile. So Fatima, you can unmute and ask your question, which is a great segue into something I forgot to mention. If you have a question, then please raise your hand also for the online audience. We can see that you're raising your hand and then we can give you the mic. On another note, we're also recording this session. If you're not happy about being in the recording, then please also let us know afterwards and we can blur you. And then the last practical note is that you can pin our screen to make sure you can see us big from your laptop. And then Fatima, please ask your question.
Unless you don't have a question, in which case you might have just raised your hand by accident.
That could be.
Can happen, right? Misclick of a button. I was going to say, for the people in the room that want to ask a question, please raise your hand as well, and I will test my motor skills and throw you the catch box. But in this case, you're so far away, I'm actually just going to bring it to you. Yeah, I'll do a short throw.
Maybe a short introduction first, where you, who you are and where you're from.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Sid. I work at Miro here, based in Amsterdam, where I lead the Miro Discovery Center. I have a question about the name Purple. Is that gonna go away then?
That might be something that we will slowly phase out, but right now, too soon to tell. So for sure, we are the Purple, a storytelling company, and Planworks is also a storytelling company, and then depending on how the rest of the process that comes after a merger and acquisition goes, we will decide on how we're gonna move forward. But you will see double branding for the upcoming period for sure.
Got it. Okay, very cool.
No other questions from the room? Okay, then we're going to the icebreaker, because we definitely like this to be an interactive session, which is hybrid, so with the people in the room, but also the people outside of the room. So we'd like to ask you to scan this QR code.
And we tested this, so you should be able to scan from your device at home as well.
Yeah. I need to go away, of course. With the question, what is your current location? And please add the emoji that reflects your feelings of today.
Yes, and we're asking everyone to join because we will be using the Mentimeter throughout, also for the Q&A at the end especially. So please, for everyone also in the room, but also at home, try and scan the QR code. If you're running into an issue, let us know.
And I have one question for the people behind the controls. Is it possible to make the roster of the Google Meet smaller so that we see more faces? I think that is an option, so that would be ideal. Thank you.
I think you click on the 3 dots in the center.
Yeah.
No, not of a person. The bottom. Yes, and then you can do a raster. I think change layout, the option at the top. Yes,
Exactly.
and then you can do the tiled grid.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Awesome. Then we see more people dialing in. Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you very much. Oh.
So has everyone had the opportunity and chance to join? It looks like it because we have a bunch of answers on this screen. And I think one of the things that Susan alluded to in the beginning, also when we showed the agenda, we have a very broad representation from all across the globe, ranging from Amsterdam to Bristol to exotic Dublin, California. I'm not sure where that is. And of course, Diemen, Porto, and anything in between. So welcome everyone, and I'm really glad to see that most people are in a pretty good state of mind, I would say.
We see even 33 responses, and I think we only see 12. So
Oh, perfect.
there are way more.
There's many more.
Okay, awesome. Thank you all for joining. That's really great for this first time. I see a question there. Joining virtually from Atlanta. Look at that. Awesome.
All across the world.
Then we'll move into the most interesting part, at least for, I think, for most of you today, which is the use cases. So we will present, as mentioned, 4 different use cases, or you will present 4 different use cases that you use in your daily operations. And first, we will give the floor to Randstad. So we will go off stage and give the word to the great team that I've been collaborating with. So yeah, thank you very much again.
And let's give them some applause. Yes, I was going to say.
Yeah, thanks for that, Suzanne, Jessica. So when we started to think about this experience center, we, as you can see, 4 walls, we also started to think about content. And one of our design principles was to generate as much reusable content. So content that, you know, can stick for long, that is not so, let's say, heavy on time-wise. So what we're going to show you today is a 4-minute 360 video where you can feel and experience our sound system, but also see how we try to elaborate Randstad on these 4 walls, using the LED wall and, of course, the projection walls. For the audience online, please stay tuned. You will, of course, not feel everything we feel here, but I think it's going to be an amazing experience. With that said, front of house, take off, please.
both. Anywhere around the globe. Having a job, not a given for everybody. This ever faster changing world demands more and more of us, of you. Talent, education, skills, character, willpower, agility, persistence. Words, easily written, but what do they mean, really? What's your drive, your passion for the things you like? And you are you, being employee, employer, colleague, boss, owner. You have to fit in, belong, match, be relevant to each other, finding each other, the everlasting quest for the perfect match. The jungle of jobs, the jungle of skills. We need guidance, a navigator. Knowing who you are, what you're looking for, is essential. For searching, for finding. We know so much from one another. By talking, listening, writing, reading. By analyzing. By using technology safely, trustworthy. For all of us. That's what we stand for. We have data. You are data. We are data. And much more. Let's use what we know to find work that feels good for you.
So, did you like it? Yeah, this was an interesting journey. So, some of you know I have a military aviation background, so everything I understand I relate to planes, and that I don't understand I relate to planes as well. So, as you can see, an old biplane here. Why the old biplane? Our old conference room was really an old biplane. Look at this. 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, we got the green light to lift the roof and to change this room into a new experience room. Trying to understand how we can connect data from our customers. As I mentioned, we have a lot of customers globally. Using their data, our data, public data, in a way that you can solve real issues. Getting the right skilled talent for them. And that's why we designed this room. So it's really a co-creation experience room. And we've now been open for 1.5 years. And the great news is that it was quite successful. Jaya is going to talk a little bit more about use cases, Nina about technology. But when we designed this stuff, we didn't know that we were going to have a new jet. And when we got this jet, it had a virtual capability, the best speakers in the house. We could go longer, faster, higher. An amazing journey started. So then we designed this experience center. But I remember that we started, and I don't know how about you, but I have no virtual studio background, no content design background. Luckily you had. And when we started this journey, we had 0 flight hours. This was a new machine, never built before. So we really had to dig deep in ourselves, work a lot of hours to really, at the opening, already deliver a great performance. Today we are going to show you what this studio can do. Also, when you are online, please feel free to ask any questions if you have. Obviously, you cannot look at the back, but the back has the same wall as on the side. So just that you know, for reference. And yeah, I think with that said, Jaya, you're going to talk about a lot of use cases that we did here together. And they range from yoga sessions inside, virtual studio capability, studio, anything we've done. Richard and I, we did a lot of client visits here. workshops, etc. So take us through the use cases that you have selected for the audience.
I will do that. Thank you so much, Wilbert. And yes, it has been an incredible journey. Oof. So we've got to land a little bit because this fighter jet's going so fast. And that's how we felt the past year and a half. In 1.5 years' time, we've connected 18,000 people inside the center and 65,000 virtually online. It's been absolutely incredible. And as you can imagine, it's been a journey of growth and innovation as well. So I'm excited today that I can share some use cases with you, which you've been longing for to get to know a little bit more about. So let's take it away. I'd like to begin with this. Our Clipper Stad Amsterdam sailing ship, some of you might know it, we announced a 2-year world tour in the center, creating this center at this moment a launchpad for maritime adventures. But not only that. Moving on, what we also do is annually we host our Winter Wonderland, connecting our headquarters community. This is a moment where we transform the room. We open the side walls. I hope you can see it also online. This wall can completely fold in and open up, connecting us to the restaurant next door, transforming this space into a festive market environment. Not only that, it's very important when we're moving on to the next one, our global town hall meeting. This event takes place 4 times a year. And we connect 10,000 people online in the center. And this event is a cornerstone for our business, as this is the moment where we commit to our global engagement as well as strategic discussions. So those are internal events, but now I'm very excited to actually share with you our client events. Let's go. The next. For example, we hosted an event with DHL this year. DHL, as you know, the global logistics and courier company. We partnered with this client as well as with our internal account team to create a tailor-made experience for them. We co-created a workshop and used the content from their own brand portal. And this was a great moment where we can see DHL's real challenges and have a serious conversation as well as a creative session. Not only DHL, I would also like to say that we welcomed another client, namely Coty, a beauty company. In this session, we had, and as you can see over here, just take a little look over here, we created an after movie. As what we do is we also do topics on diversity and inclusion and talent market insights. And we use their own brand portal content as well. It gives a really great wow experience for the client when they are entering this space. So as we've taken off, we continue to explore possibilities of experiences, as probably you are as well. We also know that it's clear that the value of experiences extend beyond the events themselves. And I would love to give you now the floor to Nina, who will take you through the technology behind these transformative experiences.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Experience Center. My name is Nina Revius, and I'm going to tell you today about the functionalities of this room. Because without these functionalities, this would just be a room, and we could not create the memorable experience. So first things first, we have 3 ways to organize an event. We have an in-room event, which focuses on you, the in-room people, and we tell our story on these 4 walls. We use the software of Hyro, and we can train participants so they can apply their vision on these 4 walls, which creates a whole different new dialogue. So the second runner-up, we have Virtual Studio, which creates a 3D world where I'm standing in. It puts me in here, and we control that with the 4 cameras in the back. The point of view changes the 3D world and extends the stage that I'm standing on. Next up, we have hybrid, which we are having today. We have people physically in the room, and we have people dialed in. Our room uses Our room uses 8 Panasonic projectors, which project into the side walls in the room in the back, or the wall in the back. And behind me, we have a LED screen. The LED screen contains of 1,044 tiles. I can hear you thinking, wow, that is a lot. Yes, it is. These tiles combined create 15 meters wide and 4 meters high, the LED screen. I also am standing on a LED floor. Up next, we have Dolby Atmos. That's what we use in the Experience Center to create the sound. The synthesizers have been installed in such a way that it falls onto you, the audience, like a blanket. When I walk around, sound will follow me. Our concept in the Experience Center is do it yourself, which means that participants can get trained in Hyro and create their own story on the 4 walls or in the 3D world. And it's all in the comfort of your own home. So before I go, let me leave you with this. It's not only about the functionalities, it's what we can do with these functionalities to create a memorable experience. Thank you very much.
Over. Let's have.
Thank you for that great presentation. Since we have some time left, I'm wondering for the audience online or in this room, do you have any questions for Randstad specifically? I guess you do. They told a lot of nice and interesting things.
And otherwise, I'll gladly take the first question, see if that puts people at ease to start thinking about which question they want to ask. I'm curious, and whether it's Wilbert, Jaya, or you, Nina, who answers this. You've been live for a year and a half. You have now quite a bit of flight hours. How has the response of the business been to having this space available to you?
Well, I think in the beginning it was hard because obviously when you are used to this biplane, and as you all might know, training people to use software, you tell them it's PowerPoint 2.0, but it's a little bit more than that. So we had to train a lot of people inside the company to use it. However, if you look at our customer base, I give you 3 quotes. The first customer that we had here said, I came here as your supplier and I'm leaving with you as a strategic partner. So that was a super compliment. So this room really helps us to showcase everything we have at Randstad by using also the data and the visualizations from the customer. And obviously what is really nice is that in Hyro, our own staff can program it in a way that they feel comfortable in presenting it. So roughly I can only say with all the events that we have that we are super, super happy that we did it. And the return on investment is not only access to new clients and new revenue. It's also about bringing Randstad up front in the role of global HR services company, in the field of data, in the field of AI. So there's lots of topics that we can bring here, including diversity and inclusion that Jaya already mentioned. So yeah, it helped us a lot.
And you mentioned you were going to share 3 quotes. We heard the one. You're now strategic partner.
Okay.
Awesome.
The second one is that due to the fact that we were here, the customer offered us access to a deal size of 45 million euro. And the third thing the customer said, I will be back.
Nice.
And that wasn't, what's his name?
Oh,
Schwarzenegger
Arnold
quote.
Schwarzenegger
It
quote.
was a real quote, and they've been back 3 times already.
Fantastic.
And the good news is what helps Jessica is that you get access to different stakeholders. So what you see also that the company doesn't, mostly procurement teams, it's 5 people in a room, you talk. But now you have 50 people from the customer in the room, and suddenly the whole topic that you discuss here becomes more a company broader initiative rather than a sales or a procurement-driven initiative. So that's, I think, one of the best things that happened to us.
And one I still remember, a story you told me, is that people, or Jaya, I'm not remembering correctly, that people started crying even in this room, which I think is yeah, one of the biggest compliments you can get, that you really get to the emotion
Yeah.
of the people when telling your story.
Absolutely. I remember that we were in the back, in the front of house, that we had clients live on screen thanking our colleagues for the hard work they did during Corona. And that was a very emotional speech that triggered a lot of tears in the room, positive tears, tears from happiness and thankfulness.
And I think we have a question from the room. It's
Yeah.
Sid
Hi,
again.
I'm Sid again.
Sid.
For people who can't see me virtually. How does the process look like, for example, for a DHL or someone takes over the room, like a customer? How does that look like from the start? They reach out to you, and there's a certain lead time. You help them build the content.
Yes. So basically, if we co-create a session with a customer, we start to co-create 10 to 12 weeks ahead of the game, ahead of day. We call it E-Day. So E-Day minus 10 weeks, we start to think about what do we want to achieve together? What kind of topics do we want to address? Who should be present? And then we start to think about content. And then the process runs itself. So we created I would say an agile process to run that. Content-wise, we design things together. So we have, of course, the Purple database, but we also have our own database, and we have, of course, a lot of content that we created together. What is really nice is that we can use our own application. So imagine like Miro. We can run Miro on screen, but we can also run our own Randstad Market Insights data lake on screen. So we can actually show a customer, in this case a customer that has an office in Seattle, we can show that a UX designer with the skill set contextual inquiry is costing $12,000 more in Seattle than in Michigan. Now, what can you do with the data? You can think about work from home, yes or no. So it offers a lot of insights, and showing this on the wall with 3, let's say, inserts is a great asset for us.
And who owns the agenda on the days like that? Is it customer who want to have their more like an internal event for themselves?
No, what we also do is that we rent out the room, but that's not a business model. For us, it's a business model to do it together with the customer.
Got it.
So these are active clients of Randstad. We have some events where customers want to rent a room. That's also possible. They pay and they use their own content team to make content. And we support them with tips, tricks, that kind of stuff. But that's then their own design. For instance, a global product day or a strategic meeting, they can have it here and they have their own agenda, and we support them with the asset making, the content.
Very cool.
Yeah?
Any other question from anyone else?
Thank you.
Glad to hear it. Yeah.
That's a good answer. Any other question from anyone online, perhaps, or in the room? Nope.
I mean, if you have more, you please.
If you have more, we
What
still
is the
have-
utilization? How many events do you on an annual basis?
Well, annual base, let's say in 1 year and a half, 300.
300.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
have you spoke about adoption, also from leadership, right? Getting
Yeah.
people comfortable to use the fighter jets. And of course it comes with a set of challenges, but you have managed to overcome some of those challenges. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit, because I imagine it's quite relevant for people in the room, how do you inspire people who might be a little bit cautious at first to adopt this new technology? How did you guys manage to be successful?
Well, I think we both set out to do specific discussion on what is the goal we want to reach when people leave this room. And so that's number one. Second thing, creating a setting where you can feel comfortable in being totally uncomfortable. Because you have to imagine, talking about my passion is aviation, putting on, I shouldn't be talking about the characteristics of the flight, I have to talk to you. So we have people here that talk about their climbing of the Mount Everest. They use their own photos. They talk about how they conquered something very, very difficult. And showing those examples inspired people to do the same. And the third thing is that we invest a lot of time in dry runs.
Yeah.
so that people feel comfortable being on stage. There is a floor that has light. Yeah, we never had a lighted floor before. So all of the stage is huge. I mean, you can walk from left to right. The mic works in the whole room. So there's a lot of things that people have to discover. Hence why we are now thinking about maybe creating a test room. Because obviously when you test here in the room, we cannot use the room for an experience. So that's something that we are discussing now.
Thank
Yeah?
you.
Okay.
To add, I would like to add to that, Wilbert, that in a way it made it easier that this is entirely new. No one's ever experienced this on a large scale, right? So, and we were very punctual. We're like, okay, this must be successful, so let's make it a success. So if leadership comes, they need to practice. They've never been here, and this is new, and that really helped. And we evaluate as well. So we do dry runs, and we do evaluations.
Yeah, it's good to say that, and sit to allude a little bit to that. Also, the board comes here to practice. So it's not, and even customers that come here, we say we want to practice. If you are broadcasting to 15,000 employees of your company, you come in and you practice. Yeah, but they don't have time. Yeah, well, you make time.
How hard was it to sell this internally? We're going to build massive 4 walls with screens, right? Are you in?
Well, it was not easy, but we did a lot of calculation and we created 8 major use cases. So we created use cases for customers, use cases for talents. So how can we attract talent using the Experience Center, which of course, as you all know, it's hard to get good talent. So how can we use this room to attract 1,500 data engineers? How do you do that? So, and what is the cost of the room when you have a meeting here compared to elsewhere? So imagine if you can save 4,000 flights a year by using this room. What will happen? Internally, cost-wise, but also from a sustainability point of view. So we really worked carefully on building all those use cases, putting the data behind it, whether it's financially or emotionally, because this also triggers a sense of pride. Today we had 25 new starters of Randstad coming here. They sit down, they see the movie, and they're like, okay, great company, you know. So it also does a little bit with feeling let's say, employer value, so to say.
Very cool.
Yeah.
We have one more question online from Lily, and then we have to move on. Yes, Lily, please, go ahead.
Yeah. Hello. Have a minor question. Like, how do you make your face like visible to people while the projection is on? Because in our room, when the projection is projecting, then all the people presenting will become dark.
Yeah, so the question is, Under Armour has an immersive room which only leverages projection. So when they are in the room, the lights dim because projection does not like light. The question is from Lily, how do you balance that in this room? So how do you handle light, knowing that you have an LED wall but also projection, and you want to make sure that people speaking can be visible properly?
Yeah.
Did I get that correctly?
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'd like to answer that.
Very good. Yeah,
I'm
please
sitting, but I'm going to stand so you can actually see me. Maybe that's a bit odd otherwise. So thanks for your question. How we balance light is also, again, with testing. And we had a lighting company come in here. And as you might be able to see, you see some colors on the top. And the walls are right now white. And the light that's shining on me is actual stage light. So we were really carefully in creating a way to make this work properly. Yeah.
And it is a slightly different setup to what you have, because of course this room also leverages LED, right? The video wall behind us is LED. LED emits light by itself. Projectors project light onto a canvas, so therefore if lights are turned on into a room, projection gets washed out a little bit more. But LED technology has a lot more brightness to it because it is light emitting itself. So there's a little bit of a different dynamic than some of the things that are happening in the Under Armour showrooms. But it's a very good question.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's also the intent. What type of space do you want to create with what type of use cases in mind? So I think that always has been really clear from the beginning, right? That you want to have on-site, online, and hybrid opportunities to present. So hence this technology came out of the brainstorms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Then we're
Okay.
handing over to our next use
Yeah.
case, and I imagine, Ali, that you are eagerly awaiting to get started. So joining us virtually is Ali Lawrence. Going to point at her on the screen right there.
Yeah.
There she is, waving as well. Perfect.
Hi, Ellie.
Ali, maybe
Hello,
take a
how you guys
moment to
doing?
introduce yourself. Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah,
Hi,
please,
I'm Allie Lawrence.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
go ahead.
Hi, I'm Allie Lawrence. I am the lead of our immersive room out of our Chicago office for PepsiCo. I have a background in interactive design and animation. We call our immersive space a collab because we see it as a collaborative space for not only our coworkers at PepsiCo, but also for our clients and business partners. I think we have a video that we're going to show of
Yes,
one of the youth.
we prepared
Yes.
this, right? So let's start with what is the use case that you want to present for us today, and I will slowly pop up the different assets for you.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, so this is our space. What we have here is our interactive kitchen. This is meant to show like what our end consumer's home would be like. And what we do is when we have our client meetings here, we'll invite them to come up and touch the screens and explore the space so they can touch the different cabinets, cupboards, and fridge and reveal our products in there. Whether we're having a meeting that's like for all the PepsiCo brands or just individual ones, what's nice is seeing like not only the breadth of what we have, but how we can combine them together. So when you touch them, the doors open, you have the products in there. You're also then able to touch those products and have more information appear or like a video appear on the TV. It's just a fun way to get our clients like up out of their seats and able to like play with the screens, but also like kind of start more conversations in a like kind of gamification sort of way.
This was another one. And maybe you can elaborate a little bit more on the different personas that you use, or that in the stories and the audience that is there.
Yes, of course. So depending on who our clients are, we have coming in, whether it's like someone like Walmart or a gas station or an online thing, we have different personas who would be like their end consumers. So this setup is meant to be sort of like the standard like millennial kitchen. So we would show like what a family would have, what they would be purchasing. Maybe they're getting bubbly and, you know, Quaker Oats and, you know, maybe a bag of chips for the kids sort of thing. Or if it's more of a, you know, late night dinner thing, we have a setup where the kitchen is dark and we're showing, you know, we could open up the doors and we can see, you know, rice-a-roni and those sort of elements as well.
Thank you for presenting that. And I think then we have also the same question for you. Like if you look at these type of meetings that are meant to be for wholesale customers or at least sales type of meetings, what kind of value do you actually get out of those meetings?
So the biggest value we get out of it is the collaboration that happens in it. As you see in these photos, like we actually set up our chairs now in a U shape because as we're presenting, we're like inviting those conversations. Like we're not just doing like a typical TED talk. We want people to interrupt us. We want people to chat with us, to come up with ideas. And the thing is, the space really invites that. Like this one background is just part of the meeting. You know, we'll go through our innovations and we'll go through our plans, and like the backgrounds will be changing for each one. So there's a lot happening and it really gets people excited about what's going on with our brands.
So how do you get people excited to move around in a space, especially when it's customers that you're trying to convince, we're going to do things differently today. We're going to ask you to get up, move around, and touch stuff. Now, I can imagine that that in the beginning is a little bit tricky to do. So how did you manage that?
Yeah, so typically we start our meetings like seated. You know, our typical meeting we'll even have like, you know, we'll project the basic PowerPoint. But once we start introducing more animation and video that gets people excited, then we'll start showing that this is not your typical meeting and start inviting people up. A lot of times too, we'll do these kind of parts of the meetings like during the break, so people are already getting up, but then we kind of like, hey, come look at this. And then you could dig deeper with like an individual salesperson or marketing person. and make it a little bit more intimate in that way as well.
Very good. And Randstad already mentioned that they do feedback sessions after they've had engagements here. And I'm wondering if you can share a little bit about what the response has been, both from people within the PepsiCo organization, but also from people you've brought into this space, on how they experience the collab and sessions that you host there.
Well, one note I'll have for when we bring people in is we have a very large client who is notorious for never traveling. We convinced them to come out once last year just to like experience a meeting in the space. They've now been here 4 times this year and always want to be in this space. So they see a lot of value coming in here. Partly, I think it's just like it being so different. It not just being a normal conference room. It's not just being a Zoom call. The fact that we can sit down and like really like hunker down with this. As for internally, there was a lot of, it was a slow build at first. We've had this room, I think, open now for 3 years. I think it was just people were intimidated by it, thinking it was very complicated and like, you know, oh, well, we just are so like hell-bent on our PowerPoints. We have to use our PowerPoints. Once we got a couple in there and once we like started seeing some big successes and seeing some big wins with our clients, and word got around, more people have come in. And plus 2, we started building templates and we started building like a pool of assets that we can build from. So it's not a multi-month process to build these different events for us. I'm able to, if I have to, put something together pretty quickly in a day or 2. Ideally, I'd like a little bit more time than that, but you know, things happen.
I see a hand raised in the room, which I always like, so I'm going to, again, test my motor skills.
It's me again. I'm very sorry. I ask.
Don't be sorry, we like it.
The people who are leading the sessions in this space, so your speakers, your facilitators, who are, you mentioned PowerPoints, they're usually very attached to PowerPoint, that's what they know, and now you're giving them this. What is their reaction to the usage of this room?
I mean, it's way more engaging for them. Most of the time we're working with salespeople. So them being able to see this big thing is like, one of the things that we've been working on lately are things like planograms, things like showing a cold vault or a shelf set in a store. So that's telling that story on like on a PowerPoint, you know, with a tiny screen, it doesn't really get it across. Being able to see something life-size, seeing something we can actually go up through and touch it, like really gets them excited. It really gets people like ready to like, you know, buy into what we're selling. The biggest issue we have with like people who are attached to PowerPoint is, you know, the last minute kind of changes that happen from it, especially with like things like sales teams where they want to pull like the most up-to-date info, like literally the morning of. So for those kind of meetings, we'll do a combination of, you know, the interactive screen, the beautiful like tiles that come up, or and a plug in the HDMI cable and show some PowerPoint slides. But we'll blend that together in a way that like it's a little seamless. Like something like one of our brands, Gatorade, like they're notorious for like last minute changes constantly. So we'll have their PowerPoints are now designed where when they're put up on our background, it blends in seamlessly.
That is a really cool way to go about it. Because this is realistic, right? That happens.
It always does. And executives can be very difficult to convince to let go of their PowerPoint slides. So there is always a way in which you can integrate them in a story. But I think the thing that you touch on, Ali, which is quite powerful, is that people, once they're there, and I'm hoping people experience that here today as well, it is doing things differently that makes it a memorable experience where your office becomes a destination, something that pulls people in because you're not doing your standard, here's 137 slides that I'm going to click through very rapidly, hoping that you won't fall asleep. So it's, I think, a really great example.
And I think also, Ellie, when I was visiting you earlier this year, you even mentioned that the board is sometimes just spending 1 or 2 days, like constantly in the space because they need to make so many decisions. So Ellie is helping out to create these presentations. Cannot be there the entire day, right? Because it's sometimes not for everyone to hear. But that's, I think, the great example how you can utilize the room with this combination that you're currently explaining.
Yeah, like on Monday we had a meeting that had 4 C-suite executives, and it required 2 private jets for us to get these folks here. So, and it was because they wanted to be in the space. I can't show those things that we had in those meetings here, but there's definitely a lot of value that's being used there.
Very good.
Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing.
Mindful of time, should we go on to the next
Yeah.
use case? I think we do.
Thank you
Is
very
there any
much, Ellie.
final question before we move on to the next use case? Nope, all good. In which
And-
case, thank you so much, Ali, for preparing this and for joining us.
Yeah.
And for sharing some of your experience on how you guys use the room over in Chicago.
And I already saw Hannah clapping and recognizing some of the things that Ellie was mentioning, how you spent your morning this morning, Hannah. So welcome to you. Could you please introduce yourself and start presenting your use case?
Yeah, so hello everybody. My name is Hannah. I am with SAP in Switzerland, in Zurich. As some of you can maybe tell by my accent, I am not Swiss. I come from Scotland, but I've lived here for about 5 years now. And I've been working with the IX room in Zurich for the last 5 months, as we have a rotating super user situation where people use students to kind of kickstart more innovative ideas to keep people away from PowerPoint a little bit. So Ali, I really feel your pain with people saying, oh yeah, but I can put my PowerPoint on the wall in the IX room, right? Well, yeah, okay, sure, we'll figure something out. But it's usually when you show them the first personalized animated intro screen when they start thinking, ooh, we could do something a little bit more exciting. So the use case that I'm presenting to you guys today is our super basic for absolute beginners enablement session. So the purpose of the session is to essentially take the toolbox, the IX toolbox, and give it to the teams, give it to the people who are going out to clients, who are going to partners, and to say, hey, this is easy, you can do it too, and it's actually going to be really great for you. So the general story flow, you can see in the first scene along the top, is that all these absolute beginners come into the room and they see just white background. So our room is maybe about half the size of the one in Chicago. So it's quite small and quite intimate, and it's just plain. And people are like, okay, this is okay. It's a bit bright maybe. But then we very quickly start to show and explain the philosophy behind the room, how it's focused on storytelling rather than, showing facts and figures on the wall. And its whole context really is to demystify the process. So demystify the philosophy, but also to demystify the technical aspects. So the content is split into a technical section and then an inspirational section. So you can see in scenes 2, 3, and 4 there, we show examples, or we show almost like the hybrid environment that you had before, where it suddenly feels like you're in our office. So that image is of our reception area, which we use to explain, this is where you get the tablet, and all these basic questions that always seem to trip everybody up. And then we move on to a more technical aspect of how to actually use Hyro, because everyone thinks it's really complicated. And as soon as you show them the interface and say, you see, there's a button, here it is, it's super simple, then everybody's panic levels start to drop. So we kind of use a little bit of inception, that we use the room to explain how to use the room. And we have a screen recording on the computer monitor on the wall, which shows Hyro and shows someone building a presentation, which then gets built on the walls around you. So people can see immediately the effect that what their changes have in Hyro have in the walls. So they can quite quickly see how something simple can be quite intriguing or interesting, or can have a bigger impact than how they imagined. Because a lot of people struggle to translate what they see on the screen into how it feels around them. So the value in the enablement session is to kind of tell people how exciting something quite simple can be. So yeah, it's just a room with some screens, and some people come in thinking that the room is some expensive, gimmicky something or other. But then when they're standing in the Swiss Alps and they have birdsong around them, and then they realize, oh, actually, that could be really great for my client because we know that they love hiking or something. And by explaining to people what you're using the room for is to explain the emotions and the metaphors and the ideas in your presentation, and you can use images to do that, then suddenly they realize the value and the bigger impact that it can have than showing the same crappy PowerPoint
And
or
Hannah,
whatever.
what might be nice to add here is what type of audience you have in your building. That it's mainly salespeople that, yeah, that you like to use them to use the room for. So maybe that's a nice addition as well. Why it's so important that the entire office in Zurich knows how to use this room.
Yes, the Swiss branch of SAP is mostly sales for internal companies, and it's not useful for everybody in the company, but it is useful for a lot of people to convince them of different aspects in changing their software that they have with us, for example, or how to use different aspects of the software more efficiently or better. So we've started developing different labs. So we've got an AI lab, we've got a finance lab. This morning we had a board lab. So this morning, I think we had 9 visiting C-suite people, and we had some of our own internal C-suite people, and we made this really cool personalized environment for them to really lay the groundwork for a huge digital transformation that they're hoping and planning to do. So as much as it wasn't a sales presentation this morning, it was in that kind of inspirational vein to convince the C-suite of that particular company the value of different aspects and different software, not packages, but software architecture, rather.
One of the things I wanted to touch on that you mentioned briefly is the importance of personalization. And I think it's one of the things that most people in the room who use Hyro will recognize. But I'll gladly point out your reference to the Swiss Alps and how important it is to sometimes lean into and play with the things that you know about your customer that might resonate well. And I'm wondering if you can elaborate a little bit more on how you convince people to be comfortable to do things differently and indeed personalize a story so that you deviate from the standard corporate format, which might be one size fits all.
Well, I don't know how successful I am with convincing people. I think I'm very successful, but I don't know how that actually translates into their final presentations. But definitely during the enablement sessions, when people laugh at the presentation and they recognize, so in the third scene that's on the wall there, you see some really weird Swiss traditions. And when you get a Swiss person and they laugh at that because they recognize it, then you can see the personal and emotional connection that makes with them. And they realize, okay, maybe I don't need to be so stiff about it. So I always try to show multiple different examples of that loosiness. So the first one being, hey, look, we're in the reception area of the office, or we have these weird traditions. There's another one I have that's used to explain the difficulty of organizing an event and how hard it is to organize and be clear. And on the wall we have, where's Wally? And then the audience has to find Wally, and it's like trying to organize an event, and they see that connection. And yeah, I think that showing those variations is really helpful.
and I think it touches on a topic that is actually quite important when you're designing an experience, and we'll also discuss this a little bit later on, is yes, we are all trying to land a message, which means we are appealing to the cognitive side of our brains, and especially in business, that's what we want to do. So we give people spreadsheets and dashboards and bullet points and PowerPoints and all these wonderful things that are quite information dense. But messages are much stickier and proven to be much more memorable if we also manage to also appeal to the emotive side of our brain, to that right brain thinking, to the creative side of how we think and process information. And of course, it is about striking a balance and figuring out how can you layer in-depth messaging in a way that it also appeals to people on a more emotional level. But I think marrying the two, and that's what a lot of these experiences are about. We also saw it in the Randstad's starting wow video that really sets a tone. It is about creating something that people will engage with and remember. And I would challenge people to think about the last time that you were part of a meeting where someone showed an Excel sheet and a month or two later you still remembered what was on that Excel sheet. Whereas I would hope that after having been here today or joining on the call, this is either it's a hybrid meeting or an in-person meeting that will stick with you a lot longer. So thank you for also elaborating on that a little bit. Any questions from the room?
Yeah.
One from Jaya. I have a catch box which Sid will throw. Or hand over.
Thank you, Hannah, for your presentation and sharing that with us. I would like to know, how long does it take you to create like the Swiss Alps world, for example? And also, secondly, how do you uncover what those people is their emotional connection to? You know what I mean? Yeah, thanks.
So first question, the background, I don't create them because I was given a crappy old laptop. So my computer can't actually make those really cool backgrounds. It crashes. So I rely on our in-house branding team who have more powerful computers than mine. And they upload them to our company library. So I can't give you any top tips there. But if I'm creating my own background, then I usually do a bit of a workaround where I just have 4 pictures. And if I've got it aligned in Photoshop nicely enough, then it usually is good enough to take the place of a proper background. And as for the personalization, we generally have, before meetings, we have like internal research documentation that explains the participants and which companies they're coming from, which other interests they have. And we usually try to make something personal for that company. And so, for example, if we're presenting to dentists, then there's a lot of things with smiles, for example. Or we'll have some fun videos that show AI generated videos of like cool different types of dentist chairs. And then in the Swiss example, it's a weird thing where every Swiss person likes to guess what the mountain is. So if you put up that background, then every Swiss person will immediately go, is that Mont Blanc or is it the Matterhorn? And then it usually takes a few minutes to get them back. But cheap tricks like that are usually quite good enough.
Thanks, Hannah. So just to clarify, what is their lead time of content creation? Even if it's not yours?
It depends on the team. I've had some teams where when I started with the company 5 months ago, we're still building their presentations because they've got so much content that they want to add that 5 months later it's still not finished. And we have others where we've had a turnaround of a week. So
Hard to tell.
it's hard to see what our average is, but now that I've been with the company a little bit longer, I'm starting to be more strict with people to say, nope, we need to get organized and do the dry runs. So it's coming down to more like I think what was mentioned before, like maybe 2 months, depending on how many participants want to speak. So some people still want to do their PowerPoints, so teaching them how to use the HDMI capabilities in the room, but to not touch the walls.
I think
Takes a little
Ellie
bit of
wanted
time.
to add something as well to this topic or question of Jaya.
Yeah, I just had a quick question.
Okay.
So here at PepsiCo, I build all the presentations for everyone. So we don't train folks in how to use Hiro, though we could. But it's just easier for everyone to just funnel the information to me, because then I can build the custom assets. When you have other folks like in Hiro building their own stuff, are they also like creating their own artwork to go with it, or do you have like a dedicated designer to help them build those assets specifically for the room?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we have a couple of IX rooms across SAP, and it differs per location. So specifically with Zurich, we have quite a decentralized system. So I am essentially the room super user, and I train individual teams to take the power themselves, to have quicker turnarounds, and to be able to do things internally. But for bigger, more important things, then we have our IX team, which usually is just me, who builds people's presentations for them and, does the custom animations and things and custom images. And for the teams doing it themselves, then I try to encourage them to do it mostly by themselves and only come to me if they have something really specific that they want to make. Because we want to kind of give teams the confidence to be able to use the room.
And I think
see
And we also,
Sorry, I wanted to add to that really quick because SAP actually has more than 10 of these immersive rooms globally, so it's quite a big community, and I would say it's a very mature user community. And even within the different locations, there are different ways in which content creation specifically is being managed. So for instance, in New York, previously, in New York there was a team of storytellers who would be in charge of creating content. They wouldn't necessarily have design backgrounds. They would normally be able to create what is a pretty decent looking PowerPoint, and therefore they're able to translate and leverage those skills in designing content for immersive rooms as well. But like you mentioned, a smaller team, which might sit, or in this case sits in Zurich, has a different way of going about it.
Yeah, and I see that Carl, I hope you don't mind me pointing you out, from London is in the call. And I know also that they have a team with working students, for example, that are helping creating content, and they create a lot of cool content based on personas. So for example, you walk into an auto dealer and the personas in that room, and the personas telling that story along the way, the journey that you will have with that car dealer and the contribution of SAP's products within that journey. Not sure if Carl is willing to clarify this a little bit better, but that would be great. I see you unmuting.
Hi.
Hi,
Yes.
Carl.
Yeah, no, I am here. It's just I'm getting losing a couple of seconds every 10 seconds. So if I lose you, I'm still here. Yeah. So we are one of the 20 or so IX rooms within SAP, and we're fortunate that the same team that looks after the immersive experience, which is in our experience center, is also the same team that has a creative team that does creative deal support. So our guys have got it down to a fairly quick turnaround on the stories and the backgrounds, and we're just about to go through a Hiro 2.0 upgrade, which means we're going to be doing a lot of that rebuilding ourselves as well.
Thank you for adding that. Yes, and looking at the time, it's time to go to the last use case of today. Thank you very much for your contribution, Hannah. Also, applause for Hannah, definitely. And then we're moving to Under Armour, to Shanghai. Lily, it's over to you.
Hello, I'm Lily. From Under Armour, I manage the like immersive room in APAC, so that includes in Shanghai and also in Korea. And the room for us. We're using them for the selling meetings every season, and the event will last like a week every season. So it will be like in the first 3 days we'll have a presentation. So that's we created all the content and then have the executive to talk about our strategy for the incoming season. And then after that, we will have some breakout sessions that will have our product team to show the product to show the products to to our buyers. So the people. So I forgot to mention that the main user for our room is our merchandiser in our company, and then the buyers and buyer and our wholesale customers that we are inviting them into our room, and yeah. And so after our presentation, all the chairs and everything set up will be removed, and the room will be redecorated into a showroom. And here you can also see on the on the screen the previous one. There will be physical samples be placed into the room, and then also on the screen we will be showing some 3Ds and then some details of the of this products, and then the room will be fully open to all the customers, so they will be able to come in and then to check the physical product, their physical samples, and then on the wall they will able to see the details information about all the products, and then our merchandiser buyer, they're also at the same room. So this is really help to facilitate all the conversation, and we can get lifetime feedbacks from our buyers about the products. And then also you can see on the screen here, it's we're also having some breakout sessions after the big presentation. So here is the session that we are showing our store floor sets to some visual merchandiser. So you can see on the screen, left and right, it's the content we pre-created on Hyro, and in the middle it's the HDMI function. So we're connecting one computer, and then when people are walking, when the presenter are walking through or walking through the floor sets, and there's one people operating, they can help to show people around in the room. Yeah. And and we're also trying to taking care of the people that cannot make it to our room. So we're also doing some live stream session, especially for the people that cannot make it. So we don't have the visual showroom that's presenting before. So instead we set up a phone, and then use a specific place of the screen to do this presentation, and then the live stream for the people online.
And Lily, I didn't play this first video yet, but I think it's a really nice video, and I'm really wondering what this guy is doing here. But I will first play the video for the audience.
Yeah, this one we're trying to explore more use case in the showroom. So this is our. It's also one session in our in the selling meeting. So you can see people they're wearing the samples, and then the screen is used as more like the background for the model show.
Nice, I really like it. It's innovative to bring your the sports products into the room itself.
So thanks, Lily, for elaborating on your use case. One of the questions that comes to mind watching this Under Armour, of course, a brand with a very strong brand identity. How you talk about products, how you show your products, all the effort that goes into a collection is very prescriptive, right? The story you're telling in APAC is not different than the one you're telling in North America. So I was wondering, how do you include personalization in your story development, knowing that a lot of the content is more fixed? You're not going to put the Swiss Alps up, for instance, as part of the Under Armour brand. If you can elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, for the content creation parts, because I'm here, we're also always getting the last minute change, and then there are also some like executive, they're not using Hiro system. They're like very insistent on PowerPoint. So what I do is every season I pre-created some templates. So for example, the introduction template, and then also a background, just a background and a layover, a layover for the big screen. So, and also I also have a little like robots that can integrate all the products and they upload onto Hiro. So that's when people giving me their products, not their products, their contents, like a very last minute, I can quickly adapt everything.
Nice.
Very good.
And I think Zena also entered the call. Is she still here? Maybe interesting, Zena, if you can also elaborate on what the differences are in the US. Or maybe.
Yeah, Susan.
There you are.
Really,
Hi.
I think you did a fantastic job. I think the only thing I'd add to that is we do have a global creative team. So it could be season over season or different years we may change our different look. Right now, you're all looking at our hover energy netting, which is waving behind the content. So a lot of that comes from global creative. Some of what you see with textures and colors are just our brand colors, are just some of the different technologies and innovations that we're using in our products. So that direction will come from our global creative team. And then, yeah, you'll see different nuances within the regions. We have different sports that we focus on within the regions, different heroes that we focus on within our regions that could change how our storytelling comes to life. But we all march to a global direction, and we try to at least 70% of our storytelling sound like one brand around the globe.
Thank you for adding that.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting perspective, right? You talk about templates, so setting people up for success by giving them tools within which they can get creative, but also prescribing roughly 70% to make sure that you do offer that brand consistency across different regions and across locations, while allowing for a little bit of creative flexibility. One of the questions, unless you want to ask a question from the room, no, one of the questions that I had, and I've asked it to others as well, is how do you feel the response is when you're bringing customers into this space or resellers into the space after having been there?
Yeah, the question is for me, right?
Yeah.
It's how to say that? Like our customer really like it. Yeah, I can remember like 2 years ago we first invite our customer into the room, and yeah, we can see when we played our like a walk-in videos, and people are actually standing up and then go to the screen and taking photos. Yeah, and like about 1 year ago, we started to launch the other screens on the left and right with the product details. Then we can see people actually doing a lot of conversation there.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions from the room or from the call?
No?
Because we've got a really big clock on one of our comfort monitors right here, and it says we have 3 minutes until the next section starts, and the next section is the use cases.
Yeah, that's
and
correct.
I figured maybe a very quick 3-minute, now 2-minute 45 break, just to stretch and stand, and also when you're at home, maybe to do some breathing exercises or movement might be a good thing. Am I reading the room right in terms of energy levels? Probably right, right? Okay, because then I suggest that we meet in, well, I'm going to be ambitious, within 5 minutes, and then I'll just talk faster during the use cases segment. And then we give everyone the opportunity to also just move around a little bit before we come back into the space. I will be very strict on time, so within 5 minutes, we will be back and talking. Thanks, everyone. Thanks. So thanks, everyone, for slowly trickling back in online, and also everyone here to take their seats again. There's 2 things that we're still going to be doing today, or actually sort of 3 things. One is landing the key message, the key takeaway. And then 2, we've seen a lot of different use cases from a lot of different customers. And I want to talk a little bit about how you can unlock a new use case within your existing space using the technology that you have. If you haven't been inspired by what you've seen so far, then I'll gladly give you some tools that will help you reimagine what technology can do as a means to an end, not an end in and of itself. But the key takeaway, and I think it shines through in the story from PepsiCo, from Randstad, from Under Armour, and from SAP, is think before you make. And there is a lot to be said for experiences like this, for storytelling to work. It is better to focus and think first before you start rendering pixels and putting things on screen. So it is indeed talking to your internal sales teams. Okay, what do you know about a customer? What do you want to get out of it? It is understanding what the priorities within a business are so that you can better leverage those when you're building content. It is looking at what assets you already have available in your organization or from your partner, for instance, DHL, as Randstad did, to help build that story. So I think the one thing that, for me at least, shines through is, yes, technology is super cool, but it is a means to an end. And if you think before you start making things, the chances of it being a very effective storytelling experience are much greater. And that ties in.
Sorry, Zena mentioned something nice. She said it might be different when there's an older gentleman, and then I didn't had the ability to read the full sentence. Zena, do you want to clarify your comment in the chat?
Oh, no. I was just, I was going back and forth with Ali. Sorry, I was probably being a little rascal there.
That's the goal of today, right? Connecting you.
Sidebar conversations happening.
So that's great.
We were making jokes. So
Yes, I should not have put it in. I'm so sorry. It was a message back.
Now I am kind of curious what the joke is, though. If you're comfortable.
We were talking about the temperature. I'm a hot-bodied individual, so I love being in the cold showroom. We just get customers that are always like in shock. So she was saying how she tells her presenters to wear a blazer, and I completely agreed. Except for we had the founder of Bass Pro Shops in, he's worth about $8.5 billion. And we were trying to make a pitch to him, and he like literally was a popsicle, and it was just a joke. So sorry, folks.
Not at all. I mean, it touches on a very relevant topic, right? Technology comes with certain consequences. So also in this room, LED typically produces a lot of heat, so you have to invest, and the same goes for a lot of these immersive spaces, in proper cooling, which can also mean that sometimes the cooling might be a little bit too effective, and people on stage or within an immersive room can get quite cold. But I'm really happy to see that there are sidebar conversations happening.
Exactly.
They're happening here in the room, so I'm glad they're also happening online on the call. Going into the use cases, or the template that we, on the strategy side of the Purple business, or the storytelling company, tend to leverage when we're helping customers reimagine what they can use their spaces for. And it starts with something that luckily a lot of people also already touched on and talked about today. It starts with, in the left corner, and we'll share this with you afterwards, so no worries about that. It starts with audience. Who are you trying to reach? And who are you trying to engage? What do you know about them? Whether it's an internal audience or an external audience, it really starts with understanding who are you trying to appeal to when you're deciding on how to unlock a new use case out of what you've already been doing up until that point. Once you know what your audience is, there is a really good chance that you yourself also have objectives. You might want to boost sales, you might want to inspire people, you might want to train people on new capabilities. There's all sorts of different things that you can try and influence from your perspective, as in what your organization, what you as a company are trying to do. So you have an audience, you know who you want to reach, and you have your own objectives, which is great. But just because you have a message that you want to share does not necessarily mean that you have an audience that is receptive to what you're trying to achieve. Which is why when you're thinking about use cases and you want them to be effective, which I hope you do, that you really have to spend time thinking about value drivers from the perspective of the audience you're trying to reach. Why would they be interested in engaging with you on a specific topic? What are some of the pain points they might be experiencing? What are some of the needs that they might be having and why you think you're the right person to help solve those needs? And how can you make sure that your objective aligns with what they are looking for? Because whenever you have a message and it doesn't appeal to your audience on a deeper level, you'll probably struggle keeping them focused and engaged. Whereas if something is relevant, we tend to lean in and we tend to focus quite easily. Once you know all of these things, you can start thinking about how you want to shape your experience. And there we say focus on 4 pillars before you start making your content, before you start creating those pixels. The first one is, what do you want people to think when they walk into a room or when they join a virtual studio experience? Do you want them to be wowed? Do you want to make them feel comfortable and understood? Because how you want them, or sorry, that's the feel. How you want them to feel probably decides what type of content you're going to be putting in front of them. Do you want to make them feel a little bit uncomfortable? Do you want to challenge them on things that they need to do different in their business? Well, all of these things in the creating and curating of content will influence what you put in front of them. So once you know what you want them to think and what you want them to feel, is there something you want them to do? And we've had a lot of great stories today about people walking up to rooms and engaging with content, which is a lot of in-room interactivity and engagement. But often, there is also a desired next step outside of that meeting. So what do you want people to do after they've been to your office or after they've joined a session? And it's that call to action that you do really need to consciously call out and pay attention to when you're building content and story, because otherwise there's a really good chance that people will lean back instead of lean in and think, oh, that was great. Thank you for spending a lot of time with me in this space. I will now go back on my merry way home and keep doing things the way I've always done them in the past. So focusing on these 3 things, and then also a clear, singular key takeaway, something you want people to remember, is really crucial. For us today, it was think before you make. And we've seen a lot of great examples of things that people make. Now, because we introduced a very short break, which technically wasn't part of the program, I'm a little bit short on time. One of the things we did is I pre-populated a fictitious use case where we've sort of gone through the motions of how could this work. And we chose the use case of onboarding new employees. So you might have an immersive room that you use for sales, such as Under Armour just did as their sell-in meetings. But what if you want to use it for employee onboarding? What do you know about your audience? Well, new hires are maybe a little bit unsure about how they're going to start and work. They might come from a lot of different regions. What are your objectives? You want them to onboard fast. You want them to be productive as soon as possible. You want to make them feel as if they're joining the right company for the right reason. Some of the value drivers for people to want to come to an onboarding session is they want to feel heard and understood. They want to build a network of people because they just joined a company and they're interested in seeing who their colleagues are. And they want to have that moment of affirmation and also the confidence that they are set up for success as soon as they start working in their new role. Then thinking about the think, feel, do, and remember. Like I said, we're going to share this with you guys afterwards so that you can read at your own leisure. What you want people to think is, hey, I understand the company's mission and how I contribute to this. What you might want them to feel is welcomed and supported in their new role, but also confident. How you want them to act is maybe you have a very clear action that they need to complete certain onboarding modules or certain mandatory trainings that they just need to know where to find those. And lastly, what you want them to remember after they've gone through that new immersive room use case for onboarding is that they understand the company's values, policies, and procedures. That's actually the wrong sticky. What you want them to remember is that the employer cares about its employees, that it puts a lot of time and effort into making sure that these people feel welcomed within a new organization. Now, I had originally planned to have at least 5 minutes for this. I managed to do it in under 2. So like I said, I can imagine this was quite a bit of information to digest. But it's a good segue into what we sort of want to end with. That template that we use when we're sitting with customers and walking through and talking through how to do new use cases, that is something that we're going to share with you afterwards. We'll share it as a Miro template. That's good for the Miro guys in the room. We will also share it as a PowerPoint or a Google Slides so that you can experiment with it, have fun with it, and really think about, hey, we've been doing sales, or we've been doing strategy sessions or innovation. What else could we do? And you might end up with yoga sessions for emotional well-being in the space, something that Randstad has done in the past. But I would say creativity really is the only limit, which I think is a good thing. That's
Great.
it. Like
Well
that.
done. And then I'm first of all really happy that there are still so many people in the call, because we are aware that we are asking quite some time from you. So thank you for that. Because now we're actually going to switch to a really cool part, which is the virtual studio. And in that first virtual studio, we will host a Q&A. This will take us 60 seconds to switch to the virtual studio setup. So please already scan this Mentimeter QR code. And then you can already vote, and we will be back soon in a new environment. So stay tuned. Okay, I think we're back. Are you all able to see our screen?
We're live.
Yes?
Also
Okay, awesome. So this is the virtual studio where we're standing in, and we're currently standing in this abstract environment. I paused this logo animation.
And one of the things I think is interesting is the virtual studio is, from a technology perspective, as Nina mentioned in the beginning, quite complex. Might even be an understatement. So we have an LED wall and an LED floor on which we are showing content that is rendered through a gaming engine in real time called Unreal. And that gaming engine and the rendering of that immersive world makes it seem as if Susan and I are standing in this three-dimensional blue abstract world, which create a really cool immersive effect for the people that are joining from the comfort of their own homes. For the people in the room, what you will see is that some of the content, also depending on where the camera is in the room, can actually look a little bit distorted. Because what's really interesting is that as cameras switch to different angles, the content on the screen actually moves with it to make sure that it still keeps that immersive effect. And I think you just saw that switch, which they also saw online. But now that we have the left camera, the angle of the content here is different than when we would switch to the far right one. But it still keeps that immersive effect that you're seeing us representing.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about the
No,
technology.
that's great. Thanks. And I see that already quite a lot of people, I think 14 if I counted well, responded to the Mentimeter question. Please log in if you've not done that before, because we really, of course, value your feedback, because we want to do this more often and want to improve every time. So I'm happy that most of you value the session so far. So that's great to hear. And I will now click through the next question. What is your key takeaway from this event? Please write it down.
I like how here in the room everyone's now on their phone typing away feverishly. So that's good.
It's like how society looks like today, right?
Yes. It's almost
Always
like
on
we're
our
standing in
phone.
the subway and everyone's just waiting for a train to come by.
Exactly. Inspired community, flexibility.
Very good. Slowly the word cloud is beginning to form, which is great.
Ah, new perspective, 3D. That's a nice one to read.
Nice.
Is there someone who likes to emphasize on the word you've chosen to put into this? Yes? Where's the...
Yeah, right here.
You can come a little closer if you want, Sid. Oh, thank you, Wilbert.
What I like is that it feels like it really stimulates new ways of engaging with people, and also because it's not the typical setting you're normally in, like this boardroom setting, a table, like 2 screens, but it's something else, like you saw with PepsiCo, for example. It's a U-shape, it's very open, it's flexible. It feels like everyone engages in a new way. So I think it also stimulates a lot of new thinking when you're entering a room where you think, I don't know how to meet here. because I've never been in a room like it. And I think that really helps with a new way of engaging with new people in a room. So I get the enthusiasm of trying new things.
Thank you for that contribution.
Yep.
Anyone else who likes to share something?
I'm going to call one out. One person wrote, "Community is so important." And I'm curious, whoever wrote it, if they're willing to elaborate on why they chose that statement as a takeaway.
That was me. I put that in there just because of some of the activity in the chat. So in these presentations, we're inspired by some of the use cases that are being used in different companies around the globe. But then also, like in Baltimore for Under Armour, we're getting 2 new Stream IX rooms. And I'm seeing that there's people here participating today that have experience with those rooms that I'd love to connect with and maybe learn from those pros. So already a huge impact in just being in community.
That's great to hear. And maybe also a nice segue into the vision of how we want to build this community further, because of course this was the kickoff today to organize the first event. And again, I can't thank Randstad enough that we get the opportunity to do that here today on this beautiful stage. But we want to do this more often, and we also want to launch a LinkedIn community, a LinkedIn group, where you can also interact with each other, because I believe that in the end, a community is built by and for you, but I need you as well to connect with each other, and I'm really happy to already see that happening today. So stay tuned for more activities with regards to the community that will come, and if you have any input, you know how to find me, so please reach out and we can brainstorm more on how to build that together. Then I want to move to the next question, because in the end, your questions are our insights. So please ask away if you still have questions left that we have not been able to answer yet.
I like that Brittany says, "All in for IX room jackets." Love it.
Can someone copy the notes from the chat that I am able to read them afterwards as well?
Yeah, they are a little bit small. For
Yeah.
us.
You guys are really missing out on the chat. We're all very excited to finally all connect. So thank you for organizing this community event.
Great to hear. Thank you, Brittany. Maybe also a nice segue for the front of house to change the environment one time, so that the audience is seeing a different environment in the meantime.
Yes, because that's something, again, talking a little bit more about the technology and the capabilities. You are able to switch between different 3D environments. So last it was a blue abstract representation, kind of leaning into the Randstad brand, and of course their main color blue. But there are a lot of other things that you can design specifically to create these immersive settings. And in this case, we are in a vertical farm. So if you have a story on sustainability, or you're trying to appeal to a farming audience, this can happen, then this is definitely a way to go. But we just wanted to show a little bit of the versatility and capabilities of the system from a content perspective.
And then I think we're towards the last question. First, I'd like to invite everyone on the stage that is here, because I saw that you have the feeling that people are now missing out that are in the room. But if they are on stage, they also feel like they're not missing out
Join
anymore.
us.
And then maybe someone can turn the monitor as well, so you see the virtual world. And then in the meantime, please answer the question what topic you prefer to discuss during the next community event, because we do something with your input. Your input is what we'd like to have to decide the next topic.
Come a little closer, a little bit more in.
You can come closer. And then I think this is the end of the community event. So I really want to thank you for your participation. I think we have disco lights ready, right?
Not ready, but they do exist. So we're going to give the control room some time to do this.
We don't have them? Not in this
not a
setup.
virtual studio.
Oh, okay. Then, sorry, online people, you're missing out on the disco lights. We will pop them up later. But I do have a nice song prepared. So in the end, I hope that we really come to the point that we are one Purple, Hyro, the storytelling community family. So there's only one song that we can use for that, which is...
It's always good to laugh at your own jokes.
Yeah, right? It's the song I use with my family.
But
thank you.
Thanks everyone for joining today. We will move into the section which is difficult to translate to the online version, which is also drinks and snacks. A very important aspect of any event. I would encourage the people who joined from home to grab your own drink or snack. as we're closing this first edition of the Hyper Community event. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you very much. Bye-bye.
Little way.